Peter, are you sure about switching clubs? Once you leave the KH club, all your records as a player will be erased. You'll have to stay in Switzerland under a confidentiality agreement. You can't return home and no one back home will be able to find you. Peter didn't hesitate to pay the fee. I am sure, he said. The staff quickly returned and informed him it will take 7 days to complete the switch process. Walking out of the office, Peter booked a flight to Switzerland for 7 days later and left in a hurry. The cold wind wrapped around him, making a pattering sound on the car windows. The chill seemed to seep through his down jacket. He rubbed his cold fingertips as his gaze settled on the large club name. It was a ski club founded by his partner, his boss, his wife, Taylor. It was also the most famous ski club in City A. He had once naively thought KH was just a typo Taylor made when registering. Until Alex returned home, he realized the club's name was never a mistake. Peter equals sincerity. In her heart, there was only ever Alex, even after they had been secretly married for 5 years. No matter how many championships he won, pulling the club back from the brink of bankruptcy, even retiring at the peak of his career to help Taylor conceive. The legendary title of Peter had retired for 2 years, but it still couldn't warm Taylor's heart. Look, it's Taylor and Alex. They are so perfect together. The voices of people talking pierced his ears. Peter paused in his steps. On the big screen, the footage of their competition replayed constantly. Taylor's every move was sharp and precise, as if she was born for the arena. Yet, such a talented player always had her gaze set on Alex, making way for him in the crowd, their hands tightly clasped, moving with an intimacy dazzling enough to hurt Peter's eyes. For all their years of marriage, Taylor had never been publicly that close to Peter. His hand at his side clenched tightly until he was drawn back by a scream. It's the wind. The newest ace is with them. She arrived. The crowd at the club entrance screamed, shoving Peter aside. He barely held his balance and turned his head in a daze. With the bodyguard's protection, Taylor walked toward the club, holding Alex's hand. Peter's legs stiffened. He averted his gaze and was about to leave when a reporter pushed him away and crowded in front of Taylor. Taylor, will your partner Peter make a comeback at this national skiing competition? Will you two cooperate again? The reporter's mention of his name made Peter's eyes twitch. He forced a bitter smile. 2 years of being a stay-at-home husband had worn him into a different person. Even standing right there, the reporters couldn't recognize him. Taylor coolly replied, "You're mistaken. Alex is my one and only partner." It felt like his heart was ripped open, cold and painfully aching. The crowd gasped. What's there to choose? So young with endless possibilities. Peter's been retired for 2 years. Surely he can't deliver on his big words. A coward from the supposed speed skating king. 6 years ago, Peter and Taylor participated in a double cross-country speed skating competition, winning their first championship. Holding the trophy, she was filled with emotion and promised on camera to achieve a triple crown with Peter. But after Alex returned, that dream shattered. Taylor forced Peter to retire, redirecting his resources and coach to Alex. Refocusing, Peter lifted his gaze to the woman surrounded by reporters. Taylor always seemed indifferent, yet when she looked at Alex, a tenderness showed that Peter had never seen before. I'll definitely win this year's championship with my partner, Alex, and achieve the triple crown, she declared. The word partner felt like a heavy stone pressing on Peter's chest, making it hard to breathe. Their shared dream, Taylor had unceremoniously booted him out of it. She never publicly acknowledged him as her partner. He wasn't sure how he made it back to the villa. As soon as he stepped in, he saw the living room in chaos. "Young master, please stop," the nanny said frantically, standing by helplessly against Mike's tantrum. In the past, Peter would have patiently picked him up and asked where he was hurt. But this time, he just sidestepped the toys Mike threw and headed upstairs. The next instant, sharp pain struck. Mike had smashed a toy car against Peter's forehead. His piercing cries stung Peter's ears. "Why are you here?" "I want Alex." Even though he was prepared, the words from his own son's mouth cut like a knife. And his son didn't care about Peter's wound at all. Looking at the toy car on the floor, he cried out, "You owe me a toy car." Peter held back from the throbbing pain at his temple, instructed the nanny to take Ken away, and went to deal with his injury alone. 2 years ago, when Peter had a severe hemorrhage, he nearly didn't survive. He only caught a glimpse of his child before Taylor took him away, claiming she worried for his health and wanted him to recover first. But after being discharged and seeing Alex teaching his own son to call him dad, he realized that Taylor only wanted to fulfill Alex's wish of having a family. "Why should I call you dad? Alex is my dad. These trophies were all your mom's work." For sure, liar. No matter how he explained, his son refused to accept him, never calling him dad. After tending to his wound, it was already 8 p.m. Taylor hadn't returned. Peter didn't call to ask, just quietly changed his phone's wallpaper from a family of 3's silhouette to a snowy Swiss ski resort. He then deleted all photos related to them. Just as he was about to turn off his phone, a notification popped up. Alex had tagged him in a tweet. "Hey brother, look at this. The trophy you once held is now in my hands." Taylor leaned on Alex's shoulder, taking a selfie with an incredibly gentle profile. Underneath were 9,999 comments. "Who's this guy they tagged? Never heard of him. Don't let retired players hitch a ride on our Alex's fame. Congrats to the team for winning the National Skiing Championship." Peter let out a self-deprecating smile as he liked the post on his social media and responded with a simple congrats 99. He lay back on his bed. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening startled him. Taylor walked in quickly, lacking any warmth, only a chill in her demeanor. "Alex is coming over tomorrow. You should make yourself scarce," she stated. Peter clenched his fists tighter, letting his lashes hide the emotions in his eyes. "Got it, I'll leave first thing in the morning." As her footsteps faded, Peter felt the coldness seeping into his bones. After a while, he murmured, "Once I leave, I won't come back." A night without sleep. In the morning, Peter carried his luggage to the living room. Taylor glanced at him coldly, full of impatience. "Why aren't you gone yet?" Her words cut into him like a sharp blade. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. As the door opened, Taylor's demeanor softened immediately. She reached out to brush the snow off Alex. "Why are you here so early? It's snowing heavily outside." Mike rushed to embrace Alex, exclaiming, "Seeing you makes me so happy, Alex." Peter stood frozen as he watched the cheerful scene at the door, feeling like a bucket of icy water was poured over him. Alex spotted Peter and asked curiously, "Why is he here?" Taylor replied indifferently, "He's Mike's tutor." The brief words stabbed Peter with sharp pain. Alex eyed Peter with a provocative smile. "Oh, really?" Peter found his voice. "Yes, I'm Mike's tutor." It didn't matter who he was, since he planned to leave soon anyway. Alex covered his mouth in shock. "So that's why you haven't been competing, becoming a tutor instead?" Taylor's warning glance shackled Peter, and he forced himself to nod. Alex taunted, "Mike is so young he can't learn much. Maybe you should stay as a nanny. With your retirement, you've probably lost your touch on the slopes and can only serve others." Before Peter could respond, Taylor had already agreed. "You heard him." Peter went rigid, involuntarily looking at Taylor. It didn't matter if others misunderstood him, but she knew. She knew he'd never given up training, despite his forced retirement. More than anything, he longed to return to the competition and achieve that 3rd championship in a row himself. Mike tugged Alex's arm. "Alex, are you going skiing? I want to play in the snow too." At their conversation, Peter couldn't help but warn, "Mike isn't well. Don't stay outside too long." "I'm just a nanny. What right do I have?" Mike rolled his eyes and dragged Alex outside. The living room was left with only Taylor and Peter. "Do well by Alex, and your place as my husband remains yours. But if you say something you shouldn't in front of Alex, I won't hesitate to find a new husband." Peter gazed into Taylor's cold eyes, feeling a sudden wave of exhaustion wash over him. Since Alex returned, Taylor grew ever more distant, despite their vows 5 years ago when they married. She was supposed to have only one husband. Momentarily absent, Alex approached Taylor playfully. "Taylor, check if there's snow on my neck. It's so cold." Taylor looked down, not expecting the sudden kiss. She paused, yet did not pull away. The cold wind made it hard for Peter to breathe. His eyes heated, but he couldn't tear them away, watching in self-torture. He pulled a bitter smile. Taylor and Alex are really in love. Taylor paused, frowning as she turned to look at Peter. In the desolate living room, all that remained was Peter's retreating figure, leaving quickly. The guest bedroom was filled with dust-clad memories. A photo of him and Taylor after winning his first national skiing championship caught his eye. In it, Peter held the trophy, tears covering his face, while Taylor wiped them away. That day not only marked a victory, but also the breaking away from his family for Taylor, believing she was his key to happiness. Yet with one wrong step came many. As memories crashed over him, tears finally fell. He closed his eyes, took the picture down, tore it, and threw it away, as if discarding his past with Taylor. With dusk settling in, Peter left the shower and heard a heavy thud from the adjoining room. Pushing open the door, he found his son flushed red, fainted on the floor. He burned with fever, unresponsive. Peter's eyes widened as he felt the boy's forehead, swiftly picking him up. They spent the night at the hospital. Only by morning did Mike's fever break. The doctor scribbled on a prescription pad, scolding, "A child this weak can't get cold. Didn't you know? Any later and he wouldn't have made it." Peter's heart skipped a beat. He distinctly remembered telling Taylor Mike couldn't be out too long. The sound of hurried steps echoed in the corridor as Taylor entered, her gaze icy on Peter. Alex accused, "Peter, you're so cruel, putting a young child in danger just because he said a few harsh words to you. Did you lock him outside in this cold?" Taylor's eyes turned even colder, her stare like a chilling blade. Unresolved emotions burned within Peter, boiling his blood. "I would never harm him. You took him outside." Taylor cut him off as Mike stirred awake. "Thirsty, Dad." Alex had an unnatural look, intending to speak, but Taylor beat him to it. "Mike, tell Mommy who took you outside." Mike began to cry. It was Peter. "I hate him." Like a thunderclap, Peter stiffened, his face drained of color, almost couldn't stand. He was trying so hard to steady his voice. "Mike, say that again. Who was it?" Mike wasn't listening at all. Before Peter could finish speaking, Mike yelled, "It was you. It's you." Peter had stayed with his son all night, only to be accused by him. This was the child he risked everything for. A nurse came in and pushed them out. "Why are you shouting? The child just woke up. He needs rest. Only one of you can stay." Seeing Peter silent, Alex quickly jumped in. "I'll stay with Mike. If his brother stays, Mike might get worse." His words seemed caring, but the look in his eyes was clearly provoking. He went into the room as Taylor spoke up, her eyes barely concealing her anger. "Even a tiger won't harm its cubs. Peter, I didn't think you were this cruel. I should have never let you meet Mike." Peter's heart trembled. He looked up at Taylor. In that moment of her cold gaze, the desire to explain vanished. "Yes, I'm cruel, not fit to be Mike's dad. Let Alex be the husband." His words completely ignited Taylor's anger. She grabbed his wrist tightly. "Peter, what are you crazy about? You insisted on staying by my side. Now that you want to leave, forget about it for the rest of your life." With that, Alex walked out of the room. "Taylor, your parents are here. They're waiting for you now." Taylor immediately let go, seeing Peter's reddened wrist. She was stunned for a moment. Alex called out for her again, and Taylor finally turned to leave. "I'm coming." The dull pain in his wrist was nothing compared to the heartache. Taylor and Peter had been married 5 years. Her parents didn't even know he existed. Exhausted, he left the hospital, seeing that Taylor and Alex hadn't left either. Alex called out, "Brother," as he saw Peter. Taylor's mom looked at Peter, a hint of confusion in her eyes. "Who's this?" Peter stared blankly at Taylor. Seeing her say nothing, he forced a sarcastic smile. "I'm Taylor's friend." 5 years of feelings, summed up in 2 words. Friend. Taylor's mom didn't think much of it. Her joy returned. "If you're her friend, you must come to Taylor and Alex's engagement party to share in the joy." Peter's eyes twitched, knuckles going white, almost unable to stand. His wife was about to marry another man, and they wanted him to share the joy. How ironic. Peter shut his eyes, forcing his emotions down. Mike was overjoyed when he found out. Then Alex is gonna be my dad, right? That's great. The nanny looked at Peter worriedly, but he stayed silent. His son loved Alex so much, why should he bother to interfere? Neither Taylor nor Mike seemed to care. The next morning, Peter went downstairs, seeing Taylor in the living room with an invitation in hand. Her tone was surprisingly gentle. Opening the box, she said, "I applied for you to compete again like you wanted." Peter suddenly laughed. Taylor used to comfort him like this when she did something wrong. Back then, he was everything to her, and she would agree to anything once he let go of his pride a bit. But now, Peter simply looked at her calmly. "Taylor, what do you want to say?" A flicker of unease crossed Taylor's eyes, soon wiped away. "The ring, I need it. Alex needs to wear it at the engagement." The air froze for a moment. Peter's eyes reddened, a hint of self-deprecation in his smile. "It's in the drawer of the guest room. Go get it." Watching Peter like this, an unexplainable block formed in Taylor's chest. She frowned and asked, "When did you take it off?" When he applied to switch clubs, Peter already took off the ring. "Your beloved returned. I should step aside, shouldn't I? Things not belonging to me, I shouldn't wear." Taylor's eyes cooled. "It's just a ring. Why make such a fuss?" Before she could think more, Alex's voice came from behind. "Taylor, the movers are here." The peculiar feeling vanished in an instant. Taylor decisively said, "Stay somewhere else these few days. The movers were here." Was it just for a few days? Peter paused, withdrew his gaze, and went upstairs silently. Move out, then. He was leaving anyway. Picking up the suitcase, his eyes fell on a wall of trophies. Because of their hidden marriage. In these 5 years, except for competitions, all he had left related to Taylor was that ring. Watching all the trophies being packed into boxes, Taylor's brow twitched. "You can stay at Blue Moon Bay." Before she could finish, Alex called out again, "Taylor, I think I twisted my ankle." Taylor's face changed, walking to the master bedroom without hesitation. Peter watched her leave, then calmly told the mover, "Don't pack them. Throw them all away." Saying this, he left with his suitcase, ignoring the stunned look from the mover. With the new year approaching, the streets were full of cheer and bustling with life. Except for Peter alone, working against the crowd to reach the courier station. "Fill out the forms yourself for shipping," said the worker. Peter wrote down an address in Switzerland, selecting express service. The worker took the suitcase, noticing the pure gold ring on Peter's hand, and asked with envy, "Spending the new year abroad? Going on a trip with the wife?" Peter paused while signing, realizing he forgot to return the ring to Taylor. Hesitating on the street for a long while, he finally took a taxi back to the villa. The sunlight was filtering through softly, countless memories slipping away like sand. From the day of the proposal, when Taylor lowered her gaze, speaking vows, more touching than fairy tales. "Wear this ring, and you're the one I love most." When love can be shared, is it still called true love? "We're here." The driver's voice pulled Peter from thoughts. After paying and getting out, setting foot in the living room, his heart twisted painfully. Soft murmurs from the master bedroom, and Alex's voice asking, "Taylor, how about having a baby?" Even if he was already disappointed in Taylor, hearing their intimate voices, it still felt like a knife to the heart. Peter took off the ring and was about to leave when he heard Alex's voice. "The thing I lost back then, where did you put it?" Alex asked. Taylor paused and replied, "Lost it." Alex playfully pinched Taylor's waist. "Stuff that belongs to me, if you don't give it to me, it's lost. No one's gonna wear a ring with someone else's name on it." Peter's hands were trembling, barely able to hold the ring. The letters N for Alex were carved inside. Coldness crept up Peter's spine, numbing his heart. He felt like a fool, living for 5 years with a ring with someone else's name. thinking it was a treasure. Turned out to be a big joke. From the master bedroom, he could hear their heavy breaths, but Peter was deaf to it. Coming back to himself, he had already returned to Blue Moon Bay. Outside, neighbors were putting up spring festival couplets and good luck charms. A family of 3 came back with festive goods, laughter in the air. Inside, the place was desolate. Only the pitiful Peter keeping himself company. Only when the dim sunrise broke in did Peter finally drift off to sleep. His phone buzzed constantly, waking up the curled-up Peter. Alex posted a new tweet, pointedly tagging him. The caption read, "From first love to marriage, a lifetime for 2." The attached image showed them holding hands, with that elegant ring sparkling on their fingers. In the next moment, Alex sent a private message with a photo, showing him and Taylor in bed, necks covered with red marks. "As soon as you left yesterday, Taylor had me trying out all sorts of positions. You've been sleeping in the guest room for ages, haven't you? How long has it been since Taylor shared a bed with you?" The realization that he was the outsider, the unloved, stabbed Peter's heart like a dagger. His knuckles whitened as he masochistically watched the taunting messages flood in. His eyes were burning. Just then, Taylor called. "Can you pick up Mike? I can't get away right now." Was she too busy with Alex to get away? Peter looked at the ring discarded on the ground, suppressing his emotions. "Since Mike calls Alex Dad, let Alex pick him up." Taylor sounded icier. "Peter, do you have to be so difficult?" Through the phone, Alex's voice came through. Then Taylor impatiently hung up, leaving only a cold, black screen and dial tone. Suddenly, a notification popped up. A ski news broadcast he followed was live. He clicked on it and familiar names came through. "I heard you 2 are officially engaged. MS. Taylor, would you like to say something to Mr. Alex?" Taylor paused and took Alex's hand. Speaking slowly, she said, "Meeting him, I finally understood what an eternal love is." Peter swayed as memories surged. All those times in New Zealand, when Taylor had held him, kissed his face, and pronounced her love. Once, she professed in 52 different languages that he was her eternal love, come what may. But now Peter understood that love was never meant for him. An hour later, at the tattoo parlor, Peter took off his coat, pointing to the tattoo over his heart. "Remove it." The tattoo artist paused. "This phrase must mean something special to you. Are you sure you want it removed?" Peter lowered his eyes, staring at the words eternal love in French. His tone was flat, lifeless. Not anymore. To avoid nerve damage and keep his body in the best shape, Peter opted out of anesthesia. The tattoo artist looked surprised. "Hang in there. If it gets too much, just tell me." Bit by bit, the pain seemed to scrape from his skin to his heart. But Peter only reddened his eyes, shedding no tears. The pain marked the fading imprint, giving Peter a strange sense of relief. Stripping her from his life wasn't that hard. Was it? For hours later, sweat-drenched Peter left the tattoo parlor. A crowd of reporters swept in, shoving mics in his face. "Peter, boxer, finally we found you. There are rumors you retired to marry into money, being kept by a sugar mama at 50. Is that true?" As the words hit, onlookers cast mocking eyes at him. Stunned, Peter took a step back to leave. "I don't know what you're talking about." The reporter pressed on, waving a photo of him cradling a child at the villa. "There's word you already have a kid with someone, playing around behind the scenes trying to marry into wealth. Is that true? Your awards, were they bought by your sponsors? Is Taylor one of them? Couldn't hook up with Taylor, so you switched targets? Peter, is your sportsmanship on the slopes true? Or is it just bedroom talk for your sponsors?" The barrage of accusations stung deep, making his heart tighten painfully. He unclenched and clenched his fists, his response a single sentence. "The child's Taylor's." The air thickened with silence. Then the reporters burst out laughing. "No way. If the child was really Taylor's, why would she never mention it to us?" Someone shouted, "Look, there's Taylor." A tumult ensued as reporters rushed to connect with her. "Taylor, Peter says the child's yours. Is that true?" Stretching through the crowd, Peter's eyes met Taylor's, even if momentarily. She looked away, her words dismissive and cold. "It's not mine." The cold wind stole the last ounce of warmth from Peter, their child, their 5 years dismissed with her single breath. Peter felt frigid, a gaping mouth with no words to say. Only a pair of lifeless eyes mirrored his pale face. Seeing Peter so defeated, Taylor's heart skipped wildly, as if something utterly essential was lost at once. She tried to escape but got jostled harshly by the reporters. Peter barely picked himself up, ending the reporters' advance. With a peculiar look, they watched as Peter, barely 2 steps away, collapsed into darkness, faintly hearing Taylor's frightened call amid his fall. Awakening in a car, propped against Taylor's shoulder, her hold lingered. Seeing her concerned eyes, Peter felt sick. He pulled his hand away from her grasp. "Stop the car, let me out." Taylor acted like she hadn't heard, her grip tightening. "Don't let him back out. I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup." Peter suddenly got mad. Taylor's fake concern is amusing, isn't it? "I don't want to keep pretending with you. I want to get off." Taylor's face went cold. "Stop messing around. I'm doing this for your own good." "For whose good?" The club name, the transferred competition spot, the engraving under the ring, Mike's indifference so vivid in my mind. And now she says it's all for his good? Emotions welled up, overwhelming my mind. Taylor's heart twinged, letting go, her voice softening. "Let's get checked out first. We'll talk about the rest later." Peter closed his eyes, his voice hoarse and indifferent. "Taylor, let's get divorced." Taylor's expression changed sharply. "You're just in a bad mood. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. Don't let me hear it again." Peter stayed silent. He wouldn't bring it up again. Soon he'd be off to Switzerland. When they left the hospital, it was finally raining after a long dry spell. Peter stood at the entrance, his pale face almost blending in with the rain. Seeing Peter, Taylor's heart skipped a beat. Her phone rang. Alex was calling. Taylor glanced at her phone but answered. Hearing Alex's cries, Taylor's face went pale. "Don't cry, I'll be right there." She left without looking back, leaving Peter with her resolute figure. Watching her leave, Peter lost all hope. If she had paused for a second, split her attention just a little bit, she would have noticed 2 notifications on his phone. "Peter, congratulations on passing the Swiss Talent Immigration Program. You've been granted permanent residency. Please report to the Swiss consulate within 2 days to submit your documents." With the new year approaching, taxis were scarce. By the time Peter got back to Blue Moon Bay, it was late at night. The familiar car was parked at the entrance. The window rolled down and Taylor spoke first. "Those things are in the past, no longer matter. Alex is on the rise, and the club can't have any issues." It was rare for her to take the initiative to explain, but it was for Alex. Peter's knuckles turned white, but his face showed no emotion. Snow covered him, cold and biting. Peter's phone rang, shattering the silence. These 5 years with Taylor had severed his ties with his family. Only his grandma cared about his well-being, only she would call him. He answered immediately, "Sweet grandkid, the news is crazy. Is Taylor being mean to you?" Peter's nose tingled. With fists clenched, he tried to suppress his emotions. "No, Grandma, Taylor's good to me. Don't worry about us." Taylor was about to drive off. Peter quickly called her back. "Taylor, could you say something to my grandma?" Just as he was about to hand it over, Taylor's phone rang again. Taylor pulled her hand back. "The club needs me." But he clearly saw it was Alex calling. Usually, Peter wouldn't insist, but this time he didn't want his grandma worried. He grabbed Taylor's phone, stubbornly holding his out to her. "It's just a sentence." Taylor's face turned cold. "You say it yourself." She pried his hand open, unexpectedly throwing him to the ground, bleeding. Panic washed over Taylor as she stared bewildered at her hand, not realizing her own strength. She hurried to help him up, but Alex's message caught her attention instead. "Taylor, I think I'm sick." Distracted, she grabbed her phone and drove off. Grandma's worried voice echoed. "Peter." Peter fought back his sadness. "Don't worry, Grandma. I'm good. Taylor's just busy." Don't worry. Just a short sentence taking all his strength. The next morning, Peter got a call from Mike's art teacher. Mike's dad, his drawing's here. Can you pick it up? Before refusing, the teacher had hung up. After picking up the drawing, he heard Mike clinging to Alex. Dad, can you make him leave? I don't want to see him. Taylor warned. Mike. Alex comforted the child, he just doesn't know better. Big brother wouldn't mind, right? Taylor's expression softened. I'm relieved leaving the child with you. Trust an outsider more than his own father? I just don't like him. I like Alex best. A cold wind blew, making him cough twice. Taylor hesitated, but seeing Alex and his parents, withdrew her reach. If you're unwell, just go to the hospital. All entered the house lively. No one noticed Peter. He walked out alone, standing in the snow for 2 hours to catch a cab. The driver looked at his feverish face, puzzled. Almost the new year. Why are you out here sick alone? Your wife doesn't care about you? Peter's heart ached. He rubbed his temples. A ring fell from his pocket. The driver widened his eyes. Don't fight over such things. You must love each other. Peter's eyes stung, watching the ring dubbed Galaxy shining. He placed it in the front seat. It's not what I want. Keep it if you need it. The driver was stunned, speechless for a while. Back at the hotel, Peter stumbled and fell. Dizzy and weak, he took great effort to get meds and lie down. His phone glowed in the dark. Peter, your flight is leaving soon. Please check in. Weakly, he selected a seat, reading his notifications with tears in his eyes. Someone you care about just posted something new. Taylor pinned a post. It's a wedding photo with Alex. I can't miss you this time. You're my love of this life. In an instant, it felt like Peter's throat was filled with countless needles, stabbing and bleeding. Alex is her love of this life. What about him these past 5 years? A marriage certificate nailed everything down. Peter feels like a joke. Beep beep. Alex sent Peter a private message, a trail of chat logs, going back as far as 5 years. Countless memories came rushing back like a tidal wave. The first time Peter won a solo championship. Standing on the podium, she smiled at her phone. She explained later she was replying to family. He thought nothing of it. But she was flirting with Alex. Peter went abroad for training. Taylor caught a plane to follow, saying she was worried about him. But she went on vacation with Alex, and came to see him by the way. The pent-up emotions rushed in fast. The fevered pain mingled with heartbreak, burning up all remaining warmth for Taylor. Peter swung the phone hard, the empty room full of a sense of collapse. Pain soaked through him. Who knows how long passed? The screen lit up with a message from Taylor. Come to the villa tomorrow. His eyes, red and swollen, stared at the screen, motionless for a long time. It was almost noon the next day, before his fever broke. He still went to the villa. Tonight he's leaving. He just wants to see her one last time. Divorce papers in hand. As soon as he steps into the living room, Taylor descends the stairs with Alex in ski gear. Teach Alex your speed curve techniques. Peter's face was almost ghostly pale. Taylor felt a strange tug at her heart, and added, it's not like you can compete anyhow. Alex is a rising star in the skiing world. Teaching our own is no big deal. In just a few words, Peter felt wounded again and again. In Taylor's eyes, is he now just a useless guy stuck at home? Alex looked at Peter, unwell, with a satisfied smirk at the corner of his mouth. For the sake of competition, Peter wouldn't be so petty not to teach, right? The silence smeared pressure, making Peter feel like he couldn't breathe. Emotions rolled inside his chest, constantly hitting his reason. Peter stared straight at Taylor, but her gaze was always on Alex. Not even a glance for him. His hands clenched white, his voice dry, bitter. For the glory of the country, the awards, I would not keep secrets. To perfect this technique, Peter fell countless times, broke his bones 9 times. Talent or not, it's hard to learn quickly, especially when Alex has no talent. The rising star title, Taylor forced it up for him. You can't learn it. No sooner than words fell, Taylor frowned. interrupting him. How can you be so selfish? Peter shuddered all over, heart aching sharply. 5 years as partners, Taylor knows him best. Yet, for Alex, she calls him selfish. Even after changing into gear, heading up the back mountain, Peter still gripped the ski poles, lost in thought. This mountain and villa, both gifts from Taylor. Peter, this is our exclusive ski field, never to be disturbed by others. The promises she made, she herself shattered. Peter hid the darkness in his eyes, squatted to tighten the straps, touching the ill-fitting ski equipment. The bitterness in his heart grew heavier. His exclusive gear, worn now by Alex, the ski suit bearing Peter's mark, torn off by Taylor, replaced with Alex's competition name. A bodyguard forced him up the mountain. Just demonstrating the moves took 3 hours. Alex merely watched from the side, repeatedly asked Peter to show the demo, showed no intent to learn. In sub-zero weather, Peter's skin was painful from the cold. Only then did Alex walk away from Taylor, pulling Peter down the slope. All right, let's give it a try. Sliding a few meters, Alex grabbed Peter's arm, eyes full of malice beneath the goggles. Do you know, these few hours, you look just like a clown. No matter how well you ski, what's it for? The trophy's mine. Taylor is mine. Everything of yours is mine. You'll always be under my feet. Peter's pupils shrunk, watching as Alex stomped on his ankle. Agonizing bone fracture pain made Peter shove Alex hard. Alex fell to the ground. He stared at the twisted semblance of his foot, head empty, whole body shivering, begging for Taylor's help. Taylor, my foot. A flash of urgency flickered in Taylor's eyes, quickly taken by Alex's cries from nearby. She heartlessly stepped over him. Don't block the way. Alex is a genius. Can't let anything go wrong. Saying this, Taylor helped Alex up, disappearing from Peter's sight. All Peter's words were jammed in his throat. His eyes held only burnt-out ashes. His whole body frozen stiff from the cold. It took him a long time to recover on the mountain, until New Year's fireworks boomed. It was only past 11 p.m. Then, clutching pain, he limped away. Meanwhile, in the villa, parents hurried back to the old house after New Year's Eve dinner. Alex specifically asked the nanny to take Mike away. Nuzzling close to Taylor, acting sweet. Taylor, I'm chilly all over. Help me with a hot bath, will you? A shadow passed in Taylor's eyes. Your wound can't get wet. Then hold my foot, so it won't touch the water. Taylor's gaze darkened entirely. Inside the house was a blaze of heat. Outside, icy and desolate, snowflakes fell endlessly. Peter bit back pain to hit the hospital. After emergency treatment, Peter insisted on leaving. The doctor frowned a little. What on earth is more important than your health? Doesn't your family, your wife worry? Peter's fingers quivered slightly, signing his name on the discharge paper, letter by letter. I don't have a wife. Snow covered Peter's head. Streets were empty, buzzing with everyone welcoming the new year. But there was only Peter, hobbling with crutches to the airport. Fireworks lit up the sky, illuminating Peter's empty eyes. He took out his phone, sent a scheduled message, pulled out the SIM card, thrown in the trash, boarded a flight to Switzerland. That night, Taylor's phone lit up on the bedside table, and quietly dimmed again. The dim bedroom was full of strawberry ultra-thin condoms. In the morning, the sunlight slipped through the cracks, lighting up a corner of the room. Snow on the streets slowly melted, like it never fell yesterday. The phone by the bed rang and rang. Taylor frowned, and turned it off directly. Alex and Taylor were cuddled up together, a blush still on Taylor's cheeks. Taylor isn't Peter. Before finishing, Taylor kissed him. Don't worry about him. They stayed wrapped up till afternoon. Taylor finally returned to Blue Moon Bay. Was so busy yesterday. How's your foot? No response. Taylor frowned, searched upstairs. The room was neat, no sign of Peter at all. A strange unease grew in Taylor's heart. Called the butler. Where's Peter? The butler blankly replied. He went out yesterday and hasn't been back to the villa. The unease grew, like an invisible hand squeezing Taylor's heart. What do you mean he hasn't been back? In this city, Peter only relied on Taylor. Practically no friends. Where could he go? Taylor grabbed the phone, saw 9 missed calls from Ken, ignored that and rang Peter. The number you dialed is temporarily unavailable. Please try again later. Taylor called twice, still no answer. A flicker of determination crossed her eyes. She dialed another number. Find out where Peter went. Turn the whole city upside down if you have to, but find him. Peter's disappearance unsettled Taylor deeply. She clutched her phone tight. Despite their fights, Peter was still her husband. Couldn't imagine him leaving her. Just then, a notification came. Peter's icon blinking. Taylor let out a breath. The gloom in her eyes dissipated. As long as Peter was still a skier in the country, he couldn't leave her. At that moment, she was frozen in place. A divorce agreement, then a termination contract with a cold line. Taylor, never see you again. On the first day of Chinese New Year, Taylor got her first message from Peter. Not Happy New Year, but goodbye. Taylor, never see you again. What do you mean by never again? Even if he was mad, Peter wouldn't just leave Mike. An anxious feeling stirred from her heart, like something precious slipping away. Out of control. All kinds of terrifying doubts surfaced in her mind. Taylor couldn't sit still. She texted Peter but got no reply. Taylor paused. Then anxiety rushed in. Eyes clouded with gloom. Checked the database from her secretary. All news of Peter as a player turned bright red. Cancellation. Cancellation. The document bore Peter's unmistakable signature. Taylor's brows furrowed. Mind tangled. Peter always valued cross-country skiing the most. How could he suddenly cancel his career and leave? She didn't buy it. Hit the gas. Sped to the KH club. Seeing Taylor, some murmured, "What's she doing? Calling for investigation into Peter? Weren't they not on good terms?" An older worker rolled their eyes. "You must be new. Taylor's only partner used to be Peter. Just changed in recent years." Someone sneered. "Rich folks' games. No matter how skilled, get replaced eventually." Took the elevator, right up to the surveillance floor. She coldly asked security to pull the footage. Thursday, August 23rd. It was really him. Peter was calm, signed everything, seemingly indifferent. Only paused to respond to the media. "Alex is my only partner." Taylor rubbed her temples. Felt a strange unease. It was all work-related. Peter would understand her words. Same way it's been for 5 years. Taylor grabbed her phone. Still no return call from Peter. He's never ignored her calls. Never blocked her. Brows tightly knit. Nails dug into her palm. Lost in a complex, confusing mix of feelings. "Taylor, fans and reporters are gathering outside. What do we do?" Secretary hung up a call with security. Looked panicked. Taylor stepped to the window. Opened it a crack. Heard shouts from below. Why did Peter disappear for 2 years, then suddenly cancel? KH Club, no responsibility? We demand an explanation. So much dirt on Peter online. Club does nothing? Bring back our speed skating king. Tell the fans the truth. Fans were agitated, even throwing Peter's balls at the windows. Taylor pressed her lips, regained composure, slammed the window shut, marched upstairs, called a PR meeting. Get police to remove those causing trouble. But Taylor, this might blow up. Is it not big enough already? Secretary paused, quickly phoned the police. Half an hour later, the scene outside was controlled by law enforcement. But the online storm grew wilder. KH originally rose thanks to Peter. What's this now? Abandonment? Not enough skill? Look at our new skating star and it's clear. Some fans can only shout just like their idol. Laughed at it. At least have concrete proof. No star status without merit. See? PR head pushed glasses up, face tight. Taylor's previous control of the narrative completely backfired. Only by directing it all to Peter could the club be saved. Taylor's expression unchanged. No hint of warmth. A nearby secretary, adjusting glasses, felt uneasy. After 5 years, knew better than anyone how much profit meant to Taylor. Whether Peter or Alex, made no difference. Plane touched down. Peter drew back the curtain, stared blankly out. Blue sky and clouds. Lost in thought. "Sir, I'll take you to the airport exit." Peter's an introduced talent. There's someone specifically to greet him. A flight attendant helps him into a wheelchair, enthusiastically showing him the sights of Switzerland. "You'll fall in love with this land once you're back on your feet." "Thanks." Peter, who's been traveling for training and competitions for years, feels surprisingly less out of place here despite being away from home. His urge to ski is burning strong. The city has fantastic accessibility for people with disabilities. It's easy for him to catch a cab and head to the hospital. Maybe because it's a weekday, Peter doesn't wait long in line. The doctor shines a light on his swollen ankle. The frown quickly fades. "Just a minor corrective surgery, you're good to go." Peter's heart skips. Anxious, he asks if the surgery might damage any nerves. He's planning to continue competing. His heart is racing as he asks, "Don't worry, it's just a minor surgery. Your emergency treatment was in time. It's just a dislocated bone, nothing serious." The doctor glances at the X-ray. "I can tell you're an athlete. Still got those telltale training signs on you. Then you really don't need to worry. We've got the experience. Your career's safe." She winks her honey-colored eyes. "Thanks." Peter lets out a sigh of relief, feeling much more at ease. He takes the medical records and preps for surgery. Even though he's alone, the hospital's process is quick. Sitting by himself in the corridor, Peter can't help but reminisce. Determined not to dwell on the past, he pulls out a notebook and immerses himself in the Swiss cross-country skiing rules. 2 weeks fly by. Peter's ankle heals. He's ready to leave the hospital. The S Club gets the news and reaches out right away. "Dear Peter, we can't wait for your arrival. Ken's on his way to get you." Peter feels touched. Bidding farewell to the nurses, he steps out of the hospital. He's been confined to his bed for so long, studying foreign competition rules and events. This is his first real step into a new life. Even the clouds in the sky look extra beautiful. A blonde guy in a suit approaches Peter, wearing a golden badge with the S Club logo and his name, Ken. Ken's personality is warm. He immediately goes in for a hug with Peter. "Wow, you're even more handsome than on video." Peter smiles. "Thank you, you're too kind. Just stating facts." Ken opens the car door with a gentlemanly gesture. "Let's go. I'll show you our perfect skiing family." The S Club is quite famous in Switzerland, having produced many outstanding athletes, with significant investment in its training programs. Many aspire to join but fail due to lack of talent. As the S-marked building comes into view, Peter can't help but feel nervous. At this moment, any lingering attachment to the past is washed away. This is his new starting point and the beginning of future adventures. The S Club boasts natural ski fields. Cross-country skiing is a dance with nature. Athletes should embrace nature, feeling the wind and snow. This philosophy of the club also serves as Peter's inspiration. "All right, see you at the finish line." Ken hands Peter a skiing outfit with a smile. "Looking forward to working with you, Genius Peter." Hearing that name again, Peter pauses. Memories flash by. The camera zooms in, leading Peter to the finish line. The wind of Peter creates miracles for us. Let's cheer for Peter. Taylor reaches out to him. Peter will stand on the podium together. Amidst a crowd's gaze, Peter wipes away memories of people and events. He raises his eyes, filled with starlight. As Alex sees Taylor returning to the villa, he quickly approaches. People keep sending angry messages lately. Can you have the club spend some money to influence public opinion? Taylor wraps an arm around Alex's waist, unfazed. Got it. Hang in there a bit longer. Alex is ecstatic but hears go change. We have a press conference soon. A press conference? Are they kicking Peter out of the club? Just thinking about Peter fading away thrills Alex. He's the real winner. Understood. Alex changes and heads out, only to have his knee hugged by Mike. Looking at the child who resembles Peter, Alex feels a nagging aversion but never shows it. After all, this is not his blood. Let's play, Daddy. Daddy's got to go. Be good, stay home. Alex gently pries the child off, leaving with Taylor. Mommy, Mike calls, as Taylor pauses, shutting the door. Silence fills the room. Confusion envelopes the child. Peter used to be around. Why is he nowhere to be seen now? In the car, here's what you need to say. Alex disinterestedly glances at the script, sipping water only to choke. Athlete retires, Alex takes over. Each harsh word shatters Alex's daydreams. Panic-stricken, he asks Taylor, what's this about? Unwavering, Taylor replies, for the club's future. A chill creeps up Alex's spine. He always knew Taylor was cold, but he thought he was the only one she doted on. Now, he sees she doesn't play favorites. I'm scared. Can't someone else do it? Alex pleads, leaning on her. Sighing, Taylor massages her temple. Her eyes, chilly and merciless, are frightening. The club's come this far through hard work. Now's your time to contribute. Post-conference, we're going to the hospital. Alex quakes with fear, stumbling back into the seat. She's changed. She's terrifying. Taylor remains unfazed. The phone kept buzzing. She picked it up, saying, don't call me unless you have news about Peter. Her eyes showed a flicker of ruthlessness. Alex's hand was nearly crushed, blood oozing from the edge. Peter again. He is now the one staying beside Taylor. Alex paused, leaning against Taylor's leg, suppressing the anger in his heart, his face betraying nothing. Taylor, I get it. I'll do anything. Taylor's expression softened, pulling him into a hug. Don't sit on the cold floor. Alex felt a chill inside but had no choice. His eyes flashed with determination. Winning was his only option. Losing was not. In the control room of the S Club, the leaders were waiting for Peter's debut. Has he really grown up? One said. It's been 2 years since his last competition. Can Peter still have the same talent? The person sitting in the middle spoke, and the room fell silent. Age doesn't matter, he mused, stroking his beard. What's important is his heart, the sincere heart that wants to ski. In the nearby training room, action was starting. The athletes eagerly talked about Peter, eyes gleaming. Can't wait, they said. He's handsome and a national champion. What a feat. In a corner, a blonde girl scoffed. Missing for 2 years and now back. Who knows if his talent's still there? Others exchanged glances, whispering, Molly always has harsh words. Who can tame her? Just then, the live stream camera focused on Peter, set in his starting stance. The massive ski field showed only his figure. It's starting. The athletes leaned forward, watching the screen, both nervous and excited. Up on the hill, Peter looked calm, waiting for the referee's signal. Simple, the ref said. You'll do a 10-kilometer tech and speed test. Perform as you wish, and we'll tell you the results. As he warmed up, Peter's mind ran through all the techniques. He knew what to do, yet there was a hint of nervousness. Ready in 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, go. The wind swept past Peter's face, the sound of his breathing and the sharp wind his only companions. His movements were light and smooth, seemed less like skiing and more like dancing on clouds. Every move was perfect, every turn quick and agile. Outside the screen, the athletes fell silent, all eyes on his maneuvers. So, this is how you can adjust your posture, someone whispered in awe. Beautiful. Shush. Someone hushed the speakers, eyes wide with admiration. After the straight-line sprint, the next challenge was the S-bend, the deadliest in the S-training arena. Even the skeptic in the back raised an eyebrow, watching the elf-like figure. Many athletes fail on this demon curve, seeking speed and time. Peter noticed the deadly curve but remained unflustered, adjusting his balance. His skis naturally followed the slope. Whether shifting his weight or guiding the skis, his maneuvers were as precise as a ruler. Every detail perfectly controlled, he breezed through the curve. Oh my God! A muffled cheer erupted, then quickly silenced with a palm over the mouth. Even the club's head in the control room praised, so precise and calm. Had I not known this was his first time here, I'd have thought he had trained here. The exclusive training field's access is not shared, especially with Peter not competing in 2 years. He skied even more smoothly, releasing 2 years of pent-up pain, pouring his soul into nature, becoming one with it. A single tear of joy disappeared at the corner of his eye. This was the joy of rebirth. At the press conference, many reporters gathered, not wanting to miss this big story. After 2 years, the mystery of why Peter disappeared, canceling everything, was about to be revealed. There. The shaky live camera was directed toward the right staircase. Taylor appeared, calm, ascending slowly, with Alex behind her. Once seated, their lawyer joined them. Taylor addressed recent rumors and club rules briefly, transitioning to the main topic in just 6 minutes. In simple words, she explained why Peter canceled. With a hint of gentle regret, Taylor said, Peter was an excellent athlete, who chose to leave for personal reasons. It has nothing to do with the club. A reporter seized the chance, questioning, didn't you just distance yourselves, claiming Peter had no ties with you? The room tensed. Taylor, with a faint smile, responded, an athlete's decision is separate from the club. Any issue with that? Young and calculative, the reporter was speechless. Recently, there's buzz about Alex hogging competition spots without the skills. True? Under the table, Alex's fingers clenched. Meeting Taylor's calm face, he hesitated, eventually nodding. Yes. Reporters exchanged glances, faces full of disdain. Taylor suddenly took the mic, smoothing over the tension. That's my oversight. We'll implement a scoreboard system for fair competition among all athletes. A wave of chatter, many nodding in agreement, filled the room. Just when everything was going according to Taylor's plan, someone suddenly held up a screenshot and shouted that among Peter's fans, there were rumors that Peter's departure and deactivation were because Taylor was too timing. The crowd went wild. Taylor finally showed a slight change in expression. She picked up the microphone to steer the situation back, reminding everyone, without evidence, my company will take legal action for slander and issue a lawyer's letter. I certainly have evidence, the person exclaimed, throwing a stack of old photos and screenshots into the crowd. One photo even landed right on Taylor's desk. Her pupils contracted. The photo showed Taylor visibly pregnant, being wheeled into a delivery room, with Alex and Peter standing together outside waiting. Alex's face turned white, glancing at Taylor in panic. If this news got out, God knows how terrible things could get. Taylor suppressed her emotions, picked up the microphone, and in a low voice said, photos can be altered. These aren't evidence. But the reporters didn't listen. They picked up the photos, eager to write thousands of words of news. Taylor, why don't you bring Peter himself to explain? They questioned. Yeah, just bring Peter out, problem solved. So, is the child you previously revealed actually Peter's kid in the photo? Everything was a mess. The press conference was forcibly ended. The club's reputation didn't improve. It got even worse. Damn it. Taylor was breathing heavily, her expression dark, making Alex too scared to speak. His phone kept ringing with calls from his parents. Both Taylor and Alex looked pale, too afraid to answer. He got up and tried to hand the phone to Taylor, but she brushed it aside with a frown. I have things to do. Handle it yourself. Alex felt a chill, incredulously blocking her way. We're engaged. How can you do this? Taylor finally spared him a glance, filled with impatience. But you're useless now. Alex stood frozen, collapsing to the ground. What? Taylor picked up her phone to call her secretary. Find something we can market recently. Expose all players with dirt. Leave no one out. She stepped over the defeated Alex, ready to leave, but he grabbed her as she was about to walk out. Taylor, aren't you afraid I'll spill everything? Do what you want, Taylor said, not even turning back, walking out the door. Alex gasped. The pain in his hands, nothing compared to the pain in his heart. He suddenly understood why Peter left so decisively. It wasn't that Peter didn't want the child, but this callous woman couldn't hold his heart no matter what she sacrificed. Just thinking about her tactics made him lose the courage to expose her. In the cutthroat environment of the club, A strong sense of bitterness and helplessness overwhelmed him. For a moment, Alex didn't know if he had lost or won this competition. In the Swiss S Club, Peter safely and swiftly crossed the finish line. His chest heaved intensely, sweat soaking his clothes. The delicate movements required many times more energy than usual. 10 kilometers were nothing to Peter 2 years ago, but now it left him weakened. Suddenly, an excited shout came from nearby. Surrounded by a bunch of young girls, Peter stood there amazed. The girls were likely club players. That was amazing. I've never seen such graceful movements. Can you teach me? How did you do that, S-style? You were so fast we couldn't even see clearly. Hey, your breathing rhythm needs work. Let's exchange contacts and I can help you, one said. Hands off, player. Even though he wanted to chat, his energy was drained. Just barely finishing the race wore him out. Suddenly dizzy, Peter collapsed in the player's astonished eyes. Oh my God! A hand quickly supported his neck, gently catching him. The players widened their eyes in shock at the sudden move. Molly, of all people, aren't you a germaphobe? Let go. I'll take him, one player said, reaching out but was blocked by a slightly taller girl. Molly, with a face akin to a Greek sculpture, didn't even glance at them as she carried Peter towards the medical room. The players left behind exchanged looks, quickly following, grumbling about Molly's bossiness. Unbeknownst to the faint Peter, the resting room, already limited in space, even had the head of S Club's leading manager present. The players and club owner watched the spirited old man at the door, standing like quails. Don't crowd here. To be as strong as Peter, you must practice diligently, the manager declared. The players exchanged glances. Someone couldn't hold back, muttering, Peter's talent is unmatched. Mere practice won't. Around them, giggling ensued, seeing Molly's head getting knocked. Then they quieted as they saw the manager with a dark face. Fools. Success always comes with 99% perspiration. If Peter hadn't trained these past 2 years, do you think he could still finish skating like that? Silence fell inside. The manager stroked his beard, smiling slightly. In this world, talent alone isn't enough. This lesson is universal. Taking the manager's advice, they finally dispersed. A breeze slipped through the window, ruffling the person by the bed. Molly stood by, surprising the manager. Just as he was about to ask her to leave, she spoke up. Grandpa, I want to team up with him. That really was surprising. I suppose you'll need Peter's agreement, the manager replied. He approached Peter, who had awakened, smiling warmly. It's good to meet you. I'm John, head of S Club. Peter looked at the famous figure he'd only seen on TV and felt a bit nervous. Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, I just woke up, he said. John's smile was kind, far from his fierce reputation in news reports. Just a little thing. It's just the kind of exchange you younger folks have. I'm not getting involved. He was still half asleep earlier. When he heard someone mention forming a team, he couldn't help but think of that partner. A wave of unexplained frustration hit him. Peter lowered his eyes, not saying a word. Suddenly, a shadow swept over him, like something had blocked the light. Do you look down on me? A graceful voice spoke from above. Peter snapped out of it, realizing his silence had been misunderstood. No, that's not it, he instinctively said, looking up, only to meet a pair of sparkling, bright blue eyes. They were as beautiful as a clear sky. But unfortunately, the owner of those beautiful eyes misconstrued Peter's silence. Her eyes flared with a determined intensity. If I win, you have to listen to me. Peter frowned immediately. An unexpected emotion stirred his rebellious side. He replied, not very kindly, and if I win, then what? The blonde girl was pretty arrogant. If you win, I'll call you master, but that's not going to happen. With that, she walked away, the way she strutted like a peacock, lovely but infuriating. Peter's competitive spirit was fully sparked. He was about to leap out of bed to chase her. Hold on, Peter. John, both amused and frustrated, stepped up to stop him. Molly's just a little stubborn. She means no harm. Peter exhaled, his face turning a bit red with embarrassment. Right, he couldn't even figure out why he got so childish. All he wanted was to see that peacock falter. Before he could linger in the awkwardness, Ken handed him some documents and a badge. Your performance was way above the passing line. Welcome to the S Club, welcome to the family. A flood of joy filled Peter's heart. He took the items, holding them tightly. Thanks. Ken started to walk him out, introducing things along the way. The S Club is split into sections A and B. We've prepped a single room for you. Both sections have signs and dining areas. There's even a division of training spaces, Ken explained. We also have tests 4 times a week. If I'm right, the next test is coming up soon. Nervous? Peter nodded. I was planning to practice this afternoon. Seeing his serious expression, Ken stroked his beard, satisfied. That's right. Even though you performed flawlessly, it's clear your endurance and some moves can still improve. Indeed, Peter had a long way to go. He could get even better. An hour later, Ken waved goodbye to him. I'll guide Molly carefully. You focus on resting and keeping your health up. After all, good health is the foundation for striving. Hope to see you in the competition next time. Peter waved back, a grateful look in his eyes. His determination was lit up deep inside. He was sure of it. In the villa, in this cold weather, making me ski so many times is nuts. Alex tossed his ski gear aside, his face dark as he stormed into the villa, not caring about the coach walking away in frustration. His health was too fragile to stay in the snow for so long. He threw his clothes aside as he went in, grabbed his phone for a glance. Not a single message. His anger burned even more. He threw the phone away, frustrated. Taylor hadn't replied for a month. No matter how he tried in front of her, even if it meant pushing his weak body, training week after week to improve his skills, she hadn't responded at all. Alex simply couldn't accept it. Even knowing how much Taylor cared for herself, once the sweet one, no way he could take the cold shoulder. Knock knock. A soft knock at the door. A hint of happiness crossed Alex's eyes. He tidied up quickly to open the door, but it wasn't Taylor. It was Mike, holding toys with a hopeful smile. Daddy, you're finally paying attention to me. Alex's expression grew cold, his eyes lowering as he looked at the boy without a word. Why was this kid okay while Peter's child didn't make it? The tension was palpable. Kids, they pick up on awkward vibes instantly. The sudden change shattered Mike's hope, turning quickly into fear. His toy fell on the ground. Just as he bent to pick it up, Alex stomped on it viciously. Play your little games someplace else. I don't have time for a brat like you. His unhidden malice sent the boy into tears on the floor. Alex didn't even bother a glance, slamming the door shut. Impatience and disgust were all over his face. With Taylor ignoring him, there was no way he'd be kind to an innocent kid. The kid's sharp cries didn't stop. Alex shouted for the nanny to take him away. Keep him off the second floor. Just seeing him annoys me. Swiss's training ground followed a simple routine. Peter's pent-up emotions from 2 years pushed an incredible focus. In just a month, his demeanor changed dramatically. No longer the frail guy he was when he first got there. Ready? Peter stared ahead, fully focused and ready to sprint. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. A swift figure glided past, whizzing down slopes and past other contestants, leaving only smooth tracks in the snow. More than that, he was far ahead of everyone. Peter managed his breathing rhythm, feeling like he was one with the snow and wind, each move precise beyond belief. With each breath, it was like he was a fish darting through water, completely at ease. No one could tear their eyes away from Peter. The whistle blew loud and clear. Without a doubt, Peter took first in the test. He glanced at the time the staff recorded, nodded gratefully, then took off his goggles, rubbing his flushed cheeks briefly. Picking up his gear, he headed for the lift. A figure stopped him. That voice, as pleasant as ever, made him pause. Eyes as blue as the sky met his dark eyes. She was stunning. Peter looked at her briefly before glancing away. What are we betting? Molly could only see his fluttering lashes. Somewhat irked, she stood on tiptoe to meet his gaze. Then she spoke confidently, "Shortboard race, first to the finish wins." What started as a challenge between the two unexpectedly drew the boss's attention, enough to set up 5 cameras, 2 following them closely, with wide-angle shots at the start, the middle, and the end. Everyone ran over to cheer on Peter. "You gotta beat her. Take down that demon, Peter." The competitors were frustrated beyond words, but nobody dared to yell too loudly. They were just egging him on. They couldn't stand her for a while now. You wouldn't believe it, but every time she showed up, she'd make their buddies feel worthless. Ken whispered to Peter, venting a little. He barely said a couple of things when Molly, who was ignoring the banter until then, suddenly turned to stare at Ken. Her cold, ice-like eyes freaked him out so much that he whistled nonchalantly and stepped aside, trying to act cool. Peter found it all oddly amusing, a little grin creeping onto his face, especially when he could sense Molly's gaze on him. But he didn't acknowledge it. He just put on his goggles and signaled okay to the referee. Seeing him so focused on the competition and uninterested in her, Molly felt a strange irritation inside. She couldn't help but wonder why he was always avoiding her gaze. Preparing herself for the race, the referee cleared the track and motioned for the competitors to be ready. 3, 2, 1, go. As soon as the referee's voice trailed off, 2 figures shot forward at breakneck speed. The crowd buzzed with excitement. In snowboarding, control and technique are everything. Different body weights affect takeoffs significantly. For the first time, Peter noticed someone in his peripheral vision. Molly started fast, with movements not as effortless as Peter's but more like a nimble deer. Her agility and strength made her small frame seem irrelevant. She'd soon overtake him if things continued this way. Peter focused on his own techniques and skills, unfazed. She was leading by 3 body lengths and still accelerating. Watching this, the competitors started to get nervous. "Here comes her terrifying acceleration," they muttered. Peter stayed calm, searching for opportunities on the course. The third track had evenly distributed straight and curved segments. Fair play for both speeding on straights and maneuvering curves, testing personal ability. As the first curve approached, Molly was already 3 body lengths ahead. She started slowing slightly to navigate the curve, but for Peter, this was a chance. Skillfully, he adjusted and executed a perfect small C-cut, narrowly passing Molly's side and catching up. The key here was Peter not slowing down, maintaining speed through clever maneuvers. But Molly wasn't a pushover either. Quickly adjusting, she matched his pace as they raced side by side, both setting into another explosive speed burst. If Peter let Molly increase her lead by 3 body lengths again, he'd surely lose. The spectators couldn't help but feel anxious for him. How is Molly so relentless? Usually so cold, but once in the race, she's a force. No wonder she's gold. With the final curve ahead, Peter started accelerating too, pushing low, gambling everything on this. Molly frowned, realizing how risky this was on the upcoming raised slope. If not controlled, speed could spill over into disaster. The crowd watched, unsure whether to halt the race or keep watching. Cross-country races aren't fixed like clockwork. Curves can change the game. Peter's speed increased, overtaking by 1 body length, capturing Molly's startled attention for a split second before she refocused. She didn't slow either, using a wide C maneuver to corner as fast as possible. Then, unexpectedly, a figure took a leap from above, momentarily blocking out the light, black hair trailing in a beautiful arc. Silence enveloped the crowd, then erupted into loud shouts. "What?" Peter reduced landing impact by bending his knees, increasing speed on landing. He pulled 3 whole body lengths ahead. Even Molly widened her eyes, muttering, "What's happening?" Molly pushed to close the gap, almost catching him, but as they neared the finish, it was Peter who broke the line first. The spectators gasped in disbelief. Peter won. He really did it. Molly stood dazed, murmuring, "Oh my God. I think I might be in love with him." Ken sped to Peter, joking, "No girls allowed. Bromance keeps it real." At the finish, Peter caught his breath, clipped his board, and removed his goggles, smiling back at the astonished blonde frozen behind him. You lost. Molly looked at his glowing eyes and her heart skipped. She frowned, confused and holding her chest. Peter, you're incredible. The competitors surrounded him, loudly praising his courage. Unbelievable. How'd he dare with that slope? Feeling a little bashful, Peter scratched his head. It was nothing. It's just that everyone's too nervous to make a move. That's all. Yeah, borrowing a slope technique. With practice, it's doable. But the more important the competition, the more cautious people become. They're afraid to make a move because if they mess up, the consequences are unbearable. It's really something. The contestants definitely get it, but that breathtaking leap requires both skill and courage. Peter glanced at the stunned blonde girl and stepped forward. Although I won, I have no feelings about it. I'm actually grateful to you for letting me experience an exciting competition. I gained a lot. No, Molly suddenly said. She lifted her striking eyes, locking onto Peter. Sticking to my word is my style. You won, so you're my master. Stop. Peter cut her off immediately, feeling a cold sweat on his back. Faced with all those entertained and schadenfreude expressions around him, he tried to clear up the misunderstanding. It's just a favor, right? The blonde girl nodded lightly. Peter racked his brains, and before things got weirder, he blurted out, your name, right? Just tell me your name. Molly looked a bit disappointed and replied, my name is Molly. Peter sighed in relief and smiled. I'm Peter. People around sighed, disappointed the fun was over. Let's wrap it up. I need to practice. Peter pretended not to hear them as he gathered his equipment to leave. He was very pumped, having seen Molly's acceleration technique. It gave him a fresh idea for straight-line acceleration. Molly watched him leave without hesitation, feeling an unexpected wave of uncertainty and loss. She didn't want to miss out on Peter. She wanted to keep racing side by side with him. Peter, John called out, stopping him. Surprised, Peter turned around, looking pleased. So glad to see you again. John laughed, patting his shoulder with admiration. As expected from the one I had my eye on. Happy to announce you're the starter for next month's 7th World Cross Country Skiing Open. What? Alex stood up, surprised, holding the phone with caution as he responded to Taylor. Was I really chosen for such an important match? Taylor rubbed her dry eyes, yes, and this time the timing was just right. The club got you a spot, so practice hard. After a long wait, Alex finally saw hope again. His spot was cut off months ago due to some troublemakers. He's been out of the public eye for too long, feeling useless at home. Taylor's attitude towards him grew colder. Alex was determined to seize this chance. If this works out, the postponed engagement might finally happen. His eyes flashed darkly, but his soft words remain, I'll follow your lead. After hanging up, Taylor frowned at the club's roster. She crossed out most names, having lost the strongest players due to Peter's departure. No matter how much she spent, she couldn't keep others around. Otherwise, Alex wouldn't have gotten this chance. Taylor's eyes hardened. After her investigation, she's sure Peter went to Switzerland. Given the chance, she'd do anything to bring him back. Holding her hands together, she felt a flame in her empty heart. It was just a misunderstanding. She believed Peter loved her too much to really leave. A little coaxing, a little time, and he'd come back. At the 7th World Cross Country Skiing Open, Peter stood frozen while the others cheered. Congrats, you truly deserve this. With Peter, we're sure to win. John's eyes shifted to Molly, a smile in them. And you? The atmosphere paused. Someone voiced disbelief. Molly never teams up with anyone. Are you serious, boss? Before John could reply, the blonde stepped forward. It's decided then. Molly looked over at the bewildered Peter, leading him toward the lift. Come on, Peter. It wasn't until they were on the lift, Peter snapped back to reality. Excitement coursed through him, feeling the thrill of competition reigniting his senses. Yet the idea of a duo made him uneasy. Someone from his past, buried deep, was pulled up, causing a pang in his chest. What's wrong? Scared? Her seemingly gentle voice easily got on his nerves. Paused, Peter got distracted by Molly, grabbing his gear from the girl's arms. "Just don't hold me back," he said sharply, catching himself as he glanced at the blonde. To his surprise, Molly's face showed no change, agreeably saying, "Got it." Peter hesitated, taken aback. Molly, usually so proud, could sometimes be so unexpectedly compliant. "Don't misunderstand." Her beautiful blue eyes were set on Peter. Her words still sharp, "You're good, so I listen. Once I catch up, you'll listen to me." Stunned, Peter watched her get off the lift, taking her gear. Taking from her out of goodwill, Peter only felt underestimated, sparking his competitive spirit. He jumped off, snatched the gear, and dashed forward. Molly effortlessly kept up, breathing steady. "Damn it," Peter muttered, recklessly charging forward, feeling childlike. Molly followed, her eyes unconsciously drawn to him, unknowingly smiling. As for the memory's shadow that resurfaced, Peter shelved it, forgetting it for now. In the chalet's ski area, Taylor frowned as she watched Alex return. Not interested in coaching, she focused on Peter's practice and competition videos. "I'll fire the coach and get a new one." Alex felt a stab of pain, yet he suppressed his negative emotions. "I know, I'll follow your lead," he replied. The coach stood on the side, looking furious. Before Taylor could even turn to look at him, he ripped off his coaching badge and threw it on the ground, storming away. "What an idiot! Wasting my time." Taylor frowned. Before she could say anything, she heard Alex's voice. "Sorry, Taylor. Enough." The woman didn't back down, turned coldly and left. "That's it for today. Next time, if it doesn't work, I'll replace you." A hint of ruthlessness flashed in Taylor's eyes. She picked up her phone and messaged her assistant. "No matter what, find a strong substitute." Alex, left behind, looked miserable, like he was trapped in an ice house. Taylor's attitude felt like a death sentence to him. Alex got completely mad, shouting, "I'll work harder." A month flew by. Alex finally got recognized and boarded the plane to Switzerland with Taylor. The competition roster got posted online. A familiar name quietly stirred up excitement. One of the competitors representing S. Club Peter. In the sports world, Peter's comeback got everyone buzzing. We'll see him at the 7th World Cross Country Skiing Open. After disappearing half a year ago, he's coming back into the spotlight. Who is this sports world sensation? Peter's back for revenge. Can he beat his former partner? The internet exploded. Some said Peter returned to Switzerland for revenge, specifically targeting Windstorm duo. Others thought it was just a coincidence, just someone with the same name, but that seemed too good to be true. When Taylor heard the news, she immediately asked someone to investigate, not even realizing her own persistence. Nobody knew how thrilled Taylor was inside. Everything is destiny. Peter will definitely come back. Taylor opened a photo, her thumb brushing over Peter's cheek. Next to her, Alex watched jealously. Deep down, he was filled with resentment and fear towards Peter. Alex hated that the man had returned and feared him reclaiming everyone's attention. Nobody understood better than Alex how terrifying Peter's talent was. He spent countless nights blaming himself for not breaking Peter's legs back then, regretting it. Alex knew all too well. His talent didn't measure up to Peter's, which made him wish more than anyone for Peter's demise. The 7th World Cross Country Skiing Open had more media and journalists than usual, leaving local reporters a bit confused. When Taylor showed up with Alex, flashes went off furiously. Alex couldn't control his nerves, especially seeing ski giants he only saw on TV, which made him realize how prestigious this event was. Awkwardly, he tried to hold Taylor's hand. She didn't pull away this time, her expression calm, allowing him to hold on. Alex felt a bit happy inside, but then heard her cold voice. "Get your mind straight and don't embarrass the club." Alex froze, chilled to the bone. For the first time, he deeply regretted not putting in more training, and because of it, he felt unworthy, like he didn't measure up to anyone. Just a mess. "This club is here," someone shouted at the entrance, and the flashes got even more intense. Some even cheered. Molly's here, we won, we won. Who's that next to her? He's got to be scary good to team up with Molly. Seems like he's called Peter. Never heard of him, but if he's with Molly, he must be incredible. Alex was still trapped in his nervousness when he saw Taylor suddenly stand, her eyes fiercely locked on the two at the entrance. He turned to look, and the next moment he felt frozen. Familiar features and dark hair, those eyes with the calm confidence Alex hated. Wherever he went, he always drew everyone's gaze. Peter. Their intense stares caught Peter's attention. Taylor felt a spark of joy. He saw her. He'd surely come over to her. Taylor's thoughts barely lingered, but Peter just calmly turned away, like he didn't see them at all. In an instant, it felt like something was slipping out of her grasp. Her mind tangled in chaos. She was tense, her breath heavy with unease, like an invisible chain bound her. Peter didn't recognize her. Inside, Peter felt nothing. He did see Taylor and Alex, but so what? He'd left the past behind, found a better life, new goals and a new partner. Who are they? Do all your friends have such annoying looks? Molly broke her icy exterior with her own words, her sharpness almost frightening. Peter shook his head, amused. Not friends. Molly sighed in relief, glancing skittishly at the approaching pair, then leaned closer and whispered in Peter's ear, "So when I start something, I won't have to worry about your feelings, right?" Peter's heart skipped. He nudged her, laughing. "What do you mean start something? Did you forget John's advice?" Molly's cold expression cracked with boredom. "Yes, sir." Peter felt a sharp jab in his heart, and before he could respond, angry words pierced through. "Peter, how could you fall so low?" Taylor approached just as this pretty woman Molly spoke, and all Taylor's long-missed feelings from the past half-year were swallowed by anger. "So, this is how you got a spot? I thought you were better." Familiar doubt and suppression made Peter tense, but next moment Molly was shielding him. Her usually pleasant voice turned sharply cutting. "Who let this beast spew garbage here? Seriously, are they not screening for species at events now?" Hearing that, Peter realized then, Molly had indeed been holding back for him. Taylor's forehead veins popped, coldly retorting, "Just a loser, spewing such arrogance?" Peter felt an inexplicable unease inside. This was his partner. Who was Taylor to attack him here? He brushed past Molly and chuckled. "Did you really earn those championships yourself? Winning gold 2 years in a row without Peter, Taylor wouldn't have won anything." Taylor's face darkened as she looked at Peter. Her expression softened as if she realized something. "No matter what, Peter, those were just minor squabbles. Our door is always open for you." Hearing this, Alex's face shifted completely, staring at Taylor in disbelief. Peter found it amusing, dragging Molly away. What a nerve! Taylor's heart trembled, and her warm expression froze in place. But Peter ignored him and turned to leave. Taylor's face turned completely cold. He stepped forward to grab Peter, but Molly blocked him. "Looking to get scolded? Are you a masochist or something?" Taylor had never been humiliated like this before. She suppressed her anger, ignoring the blonde girl, eyes fixed on Peter. "Don't forget you're my husband, and Mike is your own flesh and blood. Are you just going to abandon him?" Molly's pupils shrank, a foreign emotion igniting in her previously indifferent chest, making her gaze sharp. To Peter, it was laughable. He turned his head, eyes reflecting utter unfamiliarity towards Taylor. "Wasn't he given to Alex, your lover who's passionate about kids? What does that have to do with me?" Alex immediately spoke up. "Peter, I know you're resentful, but the child is innocent." Peter cut him off, showing no pain or discomfort, just surprise and confusion. "This is your family matter, isn't it? Besides, there's no longer any connection between us." He held Molly's arm and said calmly, "Let's go. If this goes on, I might gag up my breakfast." Seeing Peter, Taylor couldn't control herself and almost reached out to grab him. The next second, a slap aimed for her face. Alex instinctively tried to intercept but saw Molly miss Taylor entirely. Taylor couldn't even open her eyes as Molly breathed a sigh of relief, retracting her hand with a look of relief. Almost couldn't resist swatting a cockroach. Such disgusting creatures. Peter feared Molly would cause trouble and realized why she was so formidable yet had few gold medals. Before even starting, she'd be disqualified for arguing or being targeted. John sighed remembering it. Molly's sharp tongue often led to her getting hit before contests, but she was also penalized for it. Such an absurd outcome he had never seen. Now he realized it was real. Peter pulled Molly away, unwilling to waste time with those two. He still had to train for the competition. A month of practice had improved his coordination with Molly, but more work was needed. Particularly, the presence of those two urged Peter to crush them completely. Fortunately, each pair drew lots separately, avoiding Taylor and the others. Molly continually muttered something under her breath, and Peter, curious, listened in and laughed. Molly was reciting local exorcism chants. He'd never seen her so disdainful of someone. It was rare for Molly, a noble from a family famed for their politeness, although she usually looked down on others. Was it luck or fate? Peter did draw Taylor's group. This race would pit him against Taylor, Molly versus Taylor. Peter wouldn't underestimate anyone. He'd face the competition head-on and prove himself with skill. Standing at the starting line, with familiar lights and judges, and the roaring crowd, Peter's passion for skiing burned brighter. Every day and every training session was for this moment on stage. But Alex was sweating bullets, trembling so much he could barely put on his goggles, let alone stand near that woman. The prodigious Peter was lined up, and when the referee started counting down, Alex just focused on the snowy path, instinctively eyeing Peter. Peter's preparation was so precise, it was unnerving. Memories of deep-rooted fears and inadequacies screamed silently. How could he compare with Peter? What strategy could he use to surpass Peter? Alex's hand couldn't stop shaking, his whole body trembling in fear. Buzzing whispers erupted from the crowd, all seemingly mocking Alex's visible tension. 3, 2, 1, go. Alex instinctively burst forward but caught a glimpse of a sharp figure passing him in seconds. In a flash, Alex's mind went blank, assaulted by unprecedented shame and collapse. He couldn't even keep up with Peter's path through the snow. Oh my, the explosive figure racing out was Peter. Peter, number 1, was leading by 3 lengths way ahead. Jeers echoed from the stands, with live streams erupting in complaints. This gap is embarrassing. What's number 2 even doing? Turn it off. The difference makes me want to cry. So embarrassing. No contest, just not the same level. No one believed number 2 could match Peter. This was a landslide. A professional versus a novice. The once lauded Peter, a top ski racer, reclaimed his title, reigniting memories. The first round ended with Team 1 leading Team 2 by a full 10 minutes. Alex had no idea how he got back to the prep room, avoiding Taylor's gaze. Taylor, aware of the cameras, barely contained her irritation and disdain. She stormed off, ignoring Alex's shattered voice behind her. Now she had to rely on herself to narrow the gap and secure victory. Taylor stood at the starting hill, looking at the blonde girl next to her, and calmed down quickly. There was still a chance in this race for 10 more minutes. This was just a nobody after all. Taylor took a deep breath, preparing to start. Ready, set, go. She didn't care who showed up with Peter. Taylor firmly believed Peter would only choose her. 3, 2, 1. Molly took off. They started almost at the same time. Taylor's quick and sharp moves made her pull ahead from the start. She always felt confident in her start. Few could keep up. Maybe she could turn things around with that. But, unexpectedly, out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of that golden silhouette sticking close. The audience exploded in cheers. Molly kept up without faltering. A tremor ran through Taylor. Before she could think further, that golden figure was speeding up, even leading by half a body length. Taylor pushed herself to go faster. She had skills in straight-line acceleration. Their neck-and-neck race finally fired up the crowd. After all, a one-sided race isn't exciting at all. The first bend came quickly. Taylor instinctively slowed down to take the turn, But that golden shadow didn't even slow down, performing a familiar move and taking a perfect curve. That move made Taylor's eyes narrow. A name she knew all too well floated up in her mind: Peter's famous bend. Something intangible gripped Taylor's heart tightly. At this moment, she realized she was feeling an unexpected level of jealousy. She couldn't tell if she was jealous of Molly's talent or her connection with Peter. Taylor knew better than anyone how much Peter valued the past. How could he recognize someone else as his partner so quickly? Her mind was in turmoil, and Taylor almost lost control of her balance. Her heart thudded, and she forced herself to calm down. No, she had to win. A fierce glint flashed in Taylor's eyes as she stopped holding back and accelerated on the straight, paying no heed to the turns. Dangerously, she closed the gap on Molly. They were only half a body length apart now. Joy rose in Taylor's eyes, as she still had a chance to overtake her. But Molly glanced back at Taylor, eyes full of regret. "Is this your best?" Taylor's mind blanked, and then Molly accelerated, widening the gap by 3 whole lengths. Suddenly, Taylor felt cold all over. Was she doing this on purpose to give her false hope? Yet, no matter how desperate it seemed, Molly was like a beast unleashed, flawless in acceleration and cornering, leaving her opponents in the dust. Molly dashed forward and crossed the finish line. Let's congratulate Molly and Peter on their victory. Let's look forward to the next event. Defeated, and utterly defeated at that, Taylor looked at Alex's pale face, her own expression blank, ears ringing, as if nothing remained. Her phone buzzed with messages, the club receiving withdrawal notices from competitors. With skills like these, why even have a club? So embarrassing. Please approve the withdrawals quickly. Nobody wanted to stay. Previous partners also sent contract termination messages. Everything was over. Taylor's eyes were blazing with anger. She smashed her phone and walked away. "Taylor," Alex called, trying to catch up, but she swatted him away, disgusted by everything. She couldn't understand what she'd done wrong and blamed everyone else. No matter what, Taylor's failure was sealed, left alone with Alex in a forgotten corner. Peter withdrew his gaze, finding the air unexpectedly fresh, the sunlight beautiful on his skin. The next race was ready to start. Bright sunlight shone into Molly's eyes, making her smirk. Honestly, how can someone so bad be so unbelievably confident? Peter gently patted his blonde partner's arm. "Don't worry about it. It's not our concern anymore." Molly was drawn to his bright smile, feeling better instantly. "You're this happy because I got revenge for you, aren't you?" Peter touched his own lips in surprise, then laughed speechlessly, giving Molly a playful shove. Narcissist. Their playful figures wouldn't stop in that small part of Switzerland. Their story was just beginning. That night, as sirens shattered the quiet of Peter's night, I was in the hotel searching for the remote to watch TV. At the moment I turned the TV on, a heavy thud echoed in the hallway. Taylor's battered watch rolled to my door, its engraved ski trophy totem visible. Half a minute earlier, my phone was broadcasting news. Ichiro Nakamoto, a 3-time Winter Olympics judge, smirked with a bow tie. Taylor blackmailed me with $30 million to ban the Swiss club. Peter, it was you, wasn't it? In the surveillance footage, Taylor backstage wore a national team outfit meant for me. It was stained red. I had a recording device tucked behind her earlobe. The police burst in, spilling liquor bottles everywhere. And there was the camellia scent I knew so well, snagged on a belt buckle. Underneath the blood-stained wedding dress hem peeked out yellow documents. 6 months ago, a skier's injury clearly stating grade 2 frostbite of the trunk, possible permanent disability. The scar on my right foot from a ski lash perfectly matched Taylor's fingerprint on file. The police, crunching over broken glass, lifted the coat of a body. Shreds of our divorce papers were covering an old childhood photo. That year, Taylor helped me with ski goggles. Now, she clutched ice spikes buried in her, piercing her gut and heart. I contacted a lawyer, allocating $50,000 from the winnings to send to Mike until he turned 18. And that's the end.